So telephone interviews are something that were used very heavily before the video functions of Zoom and artificial intelligence interviews. And some companies still use them as a step in their screening process. Some of the phone interview tips are very similar to what we talked about earlier in the virtual session. And also remember the 4 S's, the space and the surroundings that you're in. Please make sure you're in a quiet location. Don't be walking outside, for example, and you hear the wind blowing or traffic and horns beeping or a dog barking. Try to make sure you're in a quiet location. As we mentioned before, you want to stand. It will help you project your voice a little bit better, or sit really straight and tall if you can't stand. And again, smile and show your energy and your excitement for the interview. The interviewer can actually hear that in your voice. And also be short, but you want to be concise, and however, you still do want to give enough information in the interview answer, but just don't ramble on. Again, to help you feel more professional. And with a telephone, they're not going to be able to see you, but still dress up. It'll help give you that professional edge. The other thing to prep is, and you may want to take time and call somebody, a friend or a family member, make sure you have good cell phone coverage. Personally, I live out in the rural area, and there are certain roads we know if you drive down on, you might lose your call because the area doesn't have great coverage, and or if you're in a brick building, or if you're in a basement that is heavily brick, sometimes the cell phone reception is not good, and so you want to make sure that you're in a good area. And or if back when we're all on campus, we do have actual landline phones you're welcome to use in an interview suite if you want to use them for a call and not have to worry about cell phone coverage. The nice thing about a phone interview is the person interviewing you is not going to see you. So you can have your resume in front of you, your job description that you're applying for, look them over, review them, highlight things on your resume you want to make sure you bring out when you answer those behavioral-based questions. And you can have a notepad to take notes that you can take note of who are you interviewing with, write down questions that you might come up with during the session, and you could use that in your arsenal to have one step ahead. And then we also have some tips for either modality of interview. Always before, confirm the time zone. Obviously, if you know that the person you're interviewing with, either through Zoom or through phone, is in your same location, you know it probably would be the same time zone. But if you're here in Michigan, you're talking with a company in Chicago, they're in central time zone. So you have to confirm, is it noon our time or noon their time? Because if it's noon central time, it's 1 p.m. Eastern time, or even a couple hours difference if you're working with companies on the West Coast. So other things to do to make you feel more comfortable, it's okay to ask, how long is this going to be? And who and how many people you might be interviewing with. Sometimes some of the initial phone screens, there might be 3 or 4 people all around a table calling, or now with Zoom, it might have 3 or 4 or 5 people all asking questions that are part of the interview committee, asking questions of the one candidate. Sometimes you get nervous during an interview, and you should, because you care about the opportunity. If you get nervous or they ask you a question that you might not know the answer to, or you need to think, it is okay for you to ask the interviewer to repeat the question or for clarification on it. Stay calm. Don't get rattled by this. It's okay if you don't know that they might ask you things that you're not ready for, but pause. It's okay to have a second or two of silence and then give an answer. And then at the end, be ready to ask them questions if they ask that question. Do you have any questions for us? Of course you should. You're going to spend a lot of time interviewing or interning or working there. And I'm sure that, as we talked about earlier, you could do some research to come up with some questions. And then afterwards, don't forget to send a thank you note. Now, with the travel ban that we have, many companies are still moving forward with interviews, and they're using Zoom or phone technology. Definitely try to see if you can get the email addresses of the people who are interviewing you and send them a note sooner rather than later, because they might be making decisions quickly. Typically, in other cases, I would say send them an old school handwritten or typed thank you note, because we get so many emails. But in many cases now, people aren't going into their offices. So an email would be a really good thing to do sooner rather than later.